next week with the Trillionaires Foundation. What can you tell us about this foundation? Because looking at the website, it seems like some pretty amazing things that you guys offer young kids.
Yeah, it's about financial literacy. I remember growing up as a young kid in a household of two parents before my mom passed, and and I think you guys probably can attest to this. Is when you want something, you can't get none until the end of the week. You don't understand why you got to wait because mommy and daddy got money, right? But I can't get none until I get my check, kind of deal, right? And so the curriculum in the household more times than not has never been about financial literacy. It's about doing your chores, doing your schoolwork, be playing sports, be the best you can be, and just try to be a good person, right? And so the black and brown kids, and in a lot of urban areas, communities don't really get the opportunity to dive into that space. And so end up calling the tournament the Silver Classic, SLVR, which is when it comes down to, leadership, venture, and resources. You have to make sure that you have all those things in place to allow the kids to have an opportunity to understand. If you could take all four of these components, service, out in the community, doing what you're supposed to do, for us giving back. You got leadership, not always by talking, but more times than not by example. Venture, meaning going outside of the call of duty of doing the norm within your family, but kind of branching off to expand your horizons. And then all of a sudden you have resources. In order to have all those things come to fruition, to give you a chance to have the confidence in society, you have to have resources. In order to run you guys' station that you're on, if you don't have the resources, you won't be able to have the opportunity to be heard on air. So, we want to take that type of energy, because Kordell Stewart was that kid too, and instill that confidence in them and allow them to go abroad as they grow, whether it's in sports or just in normal life, be able to have those components and those key things to allow them to be successful as just normal, everyday human beings.
Silver Classic in town next week at Wynn. Big golf tournament. A lot of celebrities are in it. Kordell Stewart is with us. You can find out more about the tournament and the charitable foundation it's connected to. Just go to Twitter. Go to K/10. You are a New Orleans guy, as you mentioned, but you went pretty far away to go to college. What was the Colorado experience like? And I wonder what it's like now with Deion there.
Well, what you see from afar with how Deion is doing is how we were without social media. Because Colorado at that time, we win the national championships, at least going to them, worst case scenario. And we were going to bowl games every year, so we was always in the top 10 for the time in which I was there, maybe outside of it, maybe 1 year. But as a start, I think we were inside that thing maybe just about 2 out of 3 years. And, we made our mark with the late Charles Johnson, the Michael Westbrooks, the late Ryan Stoneberg, my center, my Derek West, my tackle, who ended up going to Indianapolis, Tony Birdie, Rashawn Salam, Heisman Trophy winner, all of those great. Christian Fourier, who played with New England, ended up winning the Super Bowl. So we had a Chris Hudson on defense, Thorpe Award winner, to Ted Johnson, and Matt Russell, who was the Buckus Award winner, also Deion Figures. So we had a mini pro team, and to have that type of success in that type of a city, where Boulder, Colorado, arguably is one of the most beautiful cities and campuses in the country, and with everything that it offers, going west to Aspen, Vail, Telluride, Beaver Creek, Silverado, all that great stuff, right? And to have a chance to go to school where you have 3 out of 365 days, you got 300 days of sunshine, like it's a vacation within itself. And now that Coach Prime is there, and he's bringing the flavor in which he has, and the excitement and revenue and, the hope with the institution, whether it's enrollment in school, it's just flipped overnight since he's gotten there. And, all the things that we remember then is the excitement without even winning a championship now. So just imagine if we win championship, how great it can be, even in comparison to how great it is right now.
That's Kordell Stewart with us. It's funny that you say it was like a vacation. My second favorite city in the country, aside from Las Vegas, is actually New Orleans. I go every year. I can't wait to go to the Super Bowl. So I found it fascinating that you were like, because I heard you over on Raider Nation Radio, our sister station, talking about how green it was, and I'm like, I prefer New Orleans. I love New Orleans. But I guess when you grow up there, it's different.
I'm from there.
Yeah.
And you can only really celebrate places that you have opportunities to go to as opposed to home. If you say home, that's a celebration within itself. New Orleans is, multicultural, if you will, across the board, from the French lifestyle to African Americans, Caucasians, Asians, Latinos, and we celebrate together all the time. If you think about Katrina, just to give you an idea of how resilient, how together and strong that community is, right after Katrina, we still had Mardi Gras. Knowing we're not supposed to because of, some of the risks that we're taking, whether it be because of, the flood and just things being contaminated, we found a way to get it done. Used a tremendous amount of ingenuity across the board through everybody and their help. We were persistent about life and being able to continue to enjoy ourselves, and we didn't allow, something that by default happened to us, not make it feel like it happened to us. And, we still had Mardi Gras, and it was an outstanding time. I didn't go, but I had a chance to see it and talk to my family. And it kind of brought, just like sports, right? When anything tough happens to us in our family or in our country, dating back to 9/11 even, to not even really go into that, but we had football as somewhat of a pillow to get us back to normalcy, if you will, right? And that's what New Orleans is about. We're about being a resilient community, regardless of what happens, to where when people like yourself come and celebrate, it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your days will run together. You won't know what's, and you will be on Bourbon Street or whatever, Magazine Street, Canal Street, anywhere you want to go, Riverwalk,
Frenchman,
all of that, French Quarters, all of it. You just have a great time, man. So it's arguably one of the most celebrated cities in all of the world, to where people love to come back for the festivals and, most importantly, even Mardi Gras.
Kordell, I want to ask you one NFL question before we get you out of here. Patrick Mahomes, when you see what he does, 3 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and it's almost one of those where you're someone who could look back and say, I was doing that same thing, 20 years before, and I was maybe a little ahead of my time. Do you agree with a statement like that?
Most 100%. I mean, I was ready. No one else was. And it was very controversial, right? It was very controversial because it was just so many things that were happening that had nothing to do with the game. It's like we get so caught up in the analytics of how you gauge a quarterback, right? To the point where you're forgetting that you're winning games. Think about Peyton Manning when he had a chance to win his Super Bowl in Indianapolis. Do y'all remember how they won? It was great defense by their safety, Sanders, number 21, and Joseph Adai and Rhodes, that actually played great between the tackles by running the ball often and a lot. When Sanders got hurt, they tried to start throwing the football a lot. There were a lot of turnovers being made. They end up going back to running the football again. So running the football was how things happened, and we never really addressed turnovers or anything of that matter, but you knew the scheme that you had to run was one that fit what you were doing best. And having a balanced offense at that time was what they needed to have in order to win. Same thing happened in Denver. No different. It was a great combination of Peyton Manning and running the football. Right now you have Patrick Mahomes that's doing it the way he's doing it. And, my time derived around he's a better receiver than he is quarterback, but I was the first quarterback in the history of the organization, dated back to 1933, to ever complete over 60% of his passes, but I was considered as a receiver. So if I was a receiver completing over 60% of my passes and the first to ever do it, what were those guys before me that played the position? What were they? How good were they? What position should they have played if this you see where I'm coming from? It's like, from the analytics standpoint, I think it's a bunch of crap because whether it's Lamar Jackson, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, none of that stuff is done in rhythm in a sense of what a quarterback is supposed to be. And because it's been a thing for so long, when I came along doing what I've done, it was very controversial, but I had a pretty darn good career, particularly in Pittsburgh, finishing 46-29. And that's a winning record. That's winning 63% of your games, and that's a pretty high percentage coming out of that city. So, nowadays to see it, Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP in the National Football League, if you do your homework to see the two-time MVPs in the National Football League, each one of those guys are Hall of Famers. We need to start getting prepared to have that conversation about him because he's done this in 5 years. 2 MVPs in 5 years. So you got Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana, you got Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Aaron Rodgers. Like, think about it. Start processing that. You start looking at those players, and you see the ones that won 2 MVPs. The only thing that we hadn't got from Lamar Jackson is a win in the Super Bowl. And I think that remains to be seen because he wins another MVP, then what do we say? Because he's just doing a remarkable job. So the game has changed, fellas, and it's a beautiful day. Need more, but you notice the Josh Allen of the world, even Aaron Rodgers, like everybody's having to run because you got defensive ends that's running 4.5s. Hello? What are we doing here? You gotta go. You gotta get out of the pocket. You can't go, So it's all about the W's and nothing else. If you can win and you do it within what you know how to do, what you do, you have a chance to win a championship. And I think throwing the ball 82% of the times in that AFC Championship game with Lamar Jackson is not what got them to the AFC Championship game. I digress on that.
Nope, they lost their way. We got 30 seconds left, Kordell. So one more time, give the tournament a pop. It's middle of next week. It's here in Vegas. Tell people what's cooking.
Yeah, it's called the Silver Classic. It derives around the foundation, derives around kids when it comes to financial literacy, black and brown kids. And I got all my friends, my celebrity friends, and other people that want to be a part of it coming out to have an opportunity to play at the Wynn. It's going to be a 2-day deal. If you want to donate, if you want to be a part of it, I think I sent you guys the one sheet and all. I hope you guys can post that to give them an opportunity. But you can go to the trillionairefoundation.org and you'll be able to find it. And you can donate whatever you want to give back to these kids, to help these kids to become more well-rounded and financial literate.